Okay, good morning. Welcome to our live weekly yoga class. I'm Joanna. I'll be guiding you today. And this is a 45-minute practice. We meet together every Thursday at this time. And every week we mix up the style, the theme. I'm looking to hear from you to see what you want to practice, what you need to practice, what you want to work on for your practicum. So please let me know. These classes are here for you, to serve you, to support you in your learning journey. So today we are going to dive into the hips. This is a Hatha practice for hip openers. And so we will be needing lots of props. So for today, we're going to be using 2 blocks, a blanket, and a bolster. If you have those items, bring them to your mat. If you have a strap, bring it to your mat. And then if you want a blanket and eye pillow for Shavasana, then you can also use those items. If you don't have all those yoga props per se, you can always makeshift with books or couch pillows or bed pillows. Or if you don't have a strap, you could use a bathrobe belt or a TheraBand, something of that nature. So we will start in a child's pose today. So I'd love for you to come straight on in. If you would like to use props for your child's pose, you can. And that might mean you have a blanket under your knees. That might mean that you have a block under your forehead. Or it might mean that you have a bolster in between your legs that you're resting one or other ear to, melting your chest down onto that support, finding a comfortable opening position. The reason that I've invited us into Velasana, child's pose for our opening shape, is so that we can immediately drop down into the base of the pelvis and connect to how that space is feeling. So as you close your eyes here, I invite you to relax the lower belly, allow it to hang between your legs, not drawing it in, not pulling it tight, letting it soften, and let breath fill that area. We spend so much of our day with the belly pulled in that sometimes it's hard to connect to that space. It is a place of feeling, it's a place of knowing and intuition. It tells us a lot. We know those feelings of butterflies or nervousness that we get that live deep down here in the gut. And the only way we can connect to those places of feeling is by allowing there to be vitality, life force energy flowing into that space. So just begin to breathe soft, gentle breaths. They don't have to be forceful. You're not trying to push the belly out really wide. It's just gentle. It's just awareness down into the belly and soft breathing to open your practice. And while you're here in child's pose, start to notice how things feel around your hips, around your knees, around your ankles. Maybe a bolster would be better served under your pelvis and between your heels. This is a nice option if there's a big gap between your pelvis and your heels. Continue to encourage the weight of your pelvis to drop down. And let's build more connection to this space by focusing on the energy centers that live here in the base of the pelvis. I'm talking about the root chakra, that place of stability and home and belonging, the first chakra you were born with. And I'm talking about the second chakra, the sacral chakra, that lives between the belly button and the pubic bone. And this is your home of creativity and fluidity and fertility. It's governed by water. And these are the two energy centers I would like us to focus on. The first being red in color, the root chakra, and the second being orange in color, the sacral chakra. These are the chakras we are going to be stimulating and balancing in this class. Moving fluidly, but yet slowly through our Hatha practice. From where you are in your child's pose, take a deep breath in through your nose and a cleansing exhale from the mouth. And again, in through the nose and out through the mouth. And one more time, in and out. And then begin to return to a natural breath. And let us rise up onto our hands and knees. So removing any props under your chest or forehead. You can keep the blanket under your knees. Your toes can be tucked or the tops of the feet rooted to the floor. Let's welcome in that fluidity by rocking the pelvis side to side. Let's make circles with the pelvis. So moving your pelvis back towards your heels and forwards towards your wrists. Go nice and slow and steady. When the pelvis comes forwards, you'll need to draw your belly button to your spine as your core engages. This protects your lower back. These circles are to help us connect to the space we're going to be opening today. Noticing along these pathways where there is any stickiness, where there is fluidity. Is there anywhere along this pathway you want to pause and just spend a couple of breaths? Let's take one more circle in this direction and then simply change and go the other way. Try and time the movement with your breath. So anytime the pelvis is coming forwards, take an inhale breath. And as the pelvis moves back, take your exhale breath. We've just got one more to go. And then moving back to tabletop. From here, let's take an inhale breath and tilt the tailbone towards the ceiling, soften the belly towards the earth, and rise the chest and the chin towards the sky. This is your cow pose. And as you exhale, rounding the back, so drawing your tailbone under your body, looking towards your belly button, pressing into your hands. Two more of those. Start from the tailbone. Inhale to come forwards and up. Elbows remain soft, shoulders moving down your back. And exhale to round the spine, looking towards your belly button, pressing down into the hands. Last cycle. Inhale, forwards and up. Heart expanding forwards. And exhale to round. And then coming all the way back to center. From here, I invite you to extend just your right leg back behind you. You're on the ball of your right foot, and you're gently pressing that right heel towards the back of the mat so that you can create a little more length in the back of this right leg. As we know, when we start to target opening through the hips, we're not just focusing on that hip space, but we're having to focus on the areas that are attached to that space, such as the backs of the legs, the lower back, the lower belly, the fronts of the thighs. From here, float your right leg towards the sky until your right heel is in line with your right hip. Now bend into your right knee. We're now going to make circles with the right knee. So you want to make these circles as big and as slow as you can. And you're just going in one direction. Imagine your right knee is coming all the way to your right elbow and all the way up to the sky. And then down towards your left knee without touching the floor. The bigger you can make these circles, and the slower you can make these circles, the more deep and intense you may feel this strengthening and lubricating work. We are massaging into the hip socket while also strengthening the hips. There's a lot going on here. Be careful to keep your core engaged so you're not collapsing into your lower and middle back. And try and keep the weight evenly distributed between your two hands. Take those circles in the other direction. You know, there's lots to think about here. And those glutes are probably starting to feel a little warm. Find your breath. Take a big inhale through your nose. And a clearing exhale from your mouth. Let's take one more circle here. And then lower the knee. Rock the hips a little side to side. And let's step this right foot forwards now. From here, you might like to have your fingertips to the floor, or my preference is 2 blocks on their highest height underneath the hands. Make sure that that right foot is parallel, facing forwards, and begin to bring your whole pelvis forwards and down. So you're deepening into a lunge here with the back knee on the mat, back toes tucked or untucked. Find what works for you. Rolling your shoulders all the way down your back, lifting your chest and collarbones, and sitting or lunging proud here. Take a big breath in and a big breath out. Perhaps feeling a stretch into your left hip flexor and psoas. So you'll notice with this practice, some stretches, some asana we hold. We start to visualize the grounding of the pelvis towards the floor. We're tapping into that stability and grounding of the earth chakra, the root chakra. And then other exercises, other asana that we do are more fluid and free-flowing, like those exercises we just did in cat-cow and the hip mandalas. Those are to stimulate the sacral chakra, that fluidity, that water-like quality. From where you are here, let's build in some fluidity. Start to take your pelvis back in space, extending your right leg towards straight, flexing your right foot and looking at your right shin. We'll continue like this, coming back into the lunge. As you inhale, you're lifting your chin and your chest. As you exhale, you're taking the pelvis back and you're looking over your right shin. A couple more times like this. Inhale brings you forwards and up. Exhale takes you back. It's the pelvis that's leading the way here. The head is the last thing to move. So come forwards with the pelvis and then begin to lift the chest and the chin. And then exhale, taking yourself back with the pelvis and then folding your heart over the right leg. Let's stay here this time. Keep flexing that right foot. You might remain like this. A couple of deep breaths. You're actively hugging your right hip back and down. Imagine you have a little grapefruit between your inner thighs. You're gently squeezing because that right hip, it really wants to lift up. So we have to work hard to keep the hips on the same line. Now keeping the legs as they are, option to walk your two hands with your blocks if you have them over to the long right side of your mat, turning your chest to the right. And now looking at your outer right hip and thigh, folding a little further forwards towards the long edge of your mat, if that feels comfortable for you. Engaging in a stretch for the outer right hip and thigh and into your IT band. Breathe deep here. As we get into these hip openers, your breath is your best friend. Especially those audible exhale breaths that help cool you and calm you and ground you. So feel free to release those from the mouth whenever you need. Let's take 3 more breaths here. Lovely. Walk those hands back, either side of your right foot, and lower the right foot onto the mat, coming back into your lunge. Now walk your two hands inside the right foot and shuffle your right foot as wide as your mat. Some of you will remain with your hands on your blocks, hands underneath your shoulders. Some of you will remove the blocks now and place your hands onto the floor. With this right foot, you can either keep the right toes facing directly forwards, or you might choose to turn your right toes out slightly so that that right hip opens slightly more to the right. This is all preference depending on how things feel through your hips and knees. For me, it feels better to turn out the right leg, but for you, you might find it more steady, more stable, more grounding to keep the right toes facing forwards. So listen to your own body and what it needs here. Your hands are flat to the floor. We're coming into lizard or dragon pose. This is a deeper hip opener. Some of you will stay up on your hands, looking in front of your mat, breathing here. Some of you might come down onto your forearms. Some of you will come somewhere between that. So maybe you slide your bolster and maybe some of your blocks under your forearms. So you have a little bit of height here. Or maybe you keep your forearms on the floor and just use a block for your forehead. Again, you decide what works. Again, the back toes can be tucked or untucked depending on what supports your left knee best. Check that your shoulders are softening away from your ears. Check that you're still breathing. And by still breathing, I mean that you're breathing with a sense of fluidity and rhythm. The breath isn't short or getting stuck. You're not feeling overwhelmed. If you are, then maybe back off a little bit. Maybe lift the chest a little more or add some props under your hands or forearms. If you'd like to add on from here, we can keep the left hand or forearm rooting down, and we can turn our chest to the right with the right hand resting on the inner right thigh. Try and avoid holding the right knee if you can. You're rolling your shoulders down the back, opening the chest towards the sky, and either looking to the wall or looking up to the sky, depending what feels good through your neck. And if all this feels good, you can press your right hand into your inner right thigh as if you're actively moving the right knee away from your chest. And then the final piece here is to extend your right arm back behind you, opening through the chest. Maybe bending that left knee so the foot comes off the floor, and seeing if your right hand and your left foot can find one another, encouraging heel to glute. You could also try this with the strap, hooking the strap around the top of the left foot and placing the rest of the strap in your right hand and encouraging heel to glute this way, opening up the quadricep on the left side. If any or all of this does not feel great for you today, then please remove the last thing or the last couple of things we've just added on and come back to a position where you can find that fluid breath. We've got 3 more cycles. This is the beauty of our practice. We can add or remove these layers as we need. Return your hands onto the floor, lowering that left foot. Come up so you're on your hands and you can shuffle your right foot between your 2 hands. And then we're going to step back. You can step back into a downward facing dog, or you could step back into a tabletop position, or you could return to child's pose if that feels best for you. Take 3 big breaths where you are, and feel free to add in a little bit of movement through the hips and legs. Just noticing how the 2 sides of your body feel at this point. We are halfway through that sequence. We've only done it all on the right side. So just notice any imbalance. And then when you're ready, you can return onto your hands and knees into tabletop position. We'll extend the left leg back behind us. We're on the ball of the left foot now, and we're pushing the left heel back. Hugging the left knee up, as if the left knee is hugging up towards your left thigh. Breathing into that long line on the back of the left leg. Enjoying that lovely release of the left knee from the floor. And then lift the left heel as high as the left hip. Draw the belly button in. Begin to bend the left knee. And now we begin our circles, our big mandalas with this left knee. So imagine that your left knee is a pencil as it draws these circles. So the bigger and wider you can make the left knee circling, the more you're going to make the circle in the hip socket. The more we're going to lubricate that area, the more we're going to build strength. You might notice in this activity that your legs are tremoring or your hips are tremoring a little bit. And that's okay. That just means we are activating, we are stimulating the areas of the hips that need a little more strengthening. Again, see if you can bring that left knee towards the left elbow, and then back towards the right knee, all the way up to the sky. One more circle in this direction. And then simply change direction. I'm feeling it too. There's definitely that strengthening, burning quality to this. It creates fire, creates warmth, it creates stimulation. Just notice how it feels for you. And take one more circle in this direction. And then bring that left knee forwards and step the left foot forwards between your two hands. So now we get to enjoy some openings. From here, your hands can come onto fingertips, either side of your left foot, or your hands can be on your blocks at any height. I like the highest height for this exercise. You're bringing your whole pelvis more forwards and down, deepening this lunge. Back toes again can be tucked or untucked. Shoulders softening down your back, lifting your chest, lifting your heart. Begin to breathe into the front lines of the torso, into the right hip flexor. Relax around the muscles of your face. Often when we're feeling intensity in the hips, we can end up sending that tension to other places, like the jaw, or the shoulders, or the hands. So see where you can soften and allow the exhale breath to release that tension. From here, let's flow. Start to take your pelvis back in space, flexing your left foot, looking towards your left shin. This left leg doesn't have to completely straighten. You can have a gentle bend in that left knee, no problem. Let's add in the fluidity. Inhale to bend the left knee, left foot to the floor, lift the chest. Exhale to extend the left leg towards straight, looking at the left shin. 2 more cycles. Inhale to come forwards and up, using the whole inhale breath to complete the movement. And exhale to fold. Last cycle. Inhale, forwards and up. And exhale to fold. Staying here this time, actively hugging the left hip back and down, squeezing gently through your inner legs. You might already feel more activity just by simply adjusting the hips so they feel like they're on the same line. Stay like this, or keep the legs where they are and simply walk your hands and blocks over to the long left side of your mat. Turn and look to the left. Look at your outer left hip and thigh. And breathe here, squeezing through those inner thighs, pushing away with the sole of your left foot. Let's take 3 more breaths here. Remember, you've got those lovely audible exhale breaths to help you if there is any intensity here. Walk your hands either side of your left foot. Place your left foot to the mat. Take your props away for a moment so your hands can be flat to the floor or hands on the lowest height of your blocks. Shuffle your left foot as wide as your mat with your 2 hands inside the left foot underneath your shoulders, stacked under your shoulders. You've got your left toes facing forwards here, or your left toes slightly turned out so your left knee goes a little wider. Again, see how this feels on this side. This might be a different experience. Maybe you mix it up here. Maybe this left side is a little stickier. It doesn't feel so good to Turn the left toes out. Maybe you feel more stable through the hip if the left toes are facing forwards. See how it goes for you. We'll start to bring the pelvis a little more forwards, and we'll start to perhaps come down onto the forearms. Maybe we'll bring a block under the forehead. Maybe we'll have a bolster or blocks or both under the forearms. Discover the right shape on this side for you, and do not compare it to the first side. Let it be its own adventure. Let your body dictate what it needs here, what is enough here. We can tap into mantra here while we are grounding down through the pelvis. The mantra that comes to mind is one connected directly to our root chakra, to our home base. And the mantra is I am. And you can finish that mantra with a positive affirmation about yourself. Or you can simply repeat the words I am. So for example, a positive affirmation might be, I am breathing. I am grounded. I am here. I am. Feel free to continue with what you're doing and where you are, or we can add on from here with that right hand or right forearm to the mat. And then a left hand on the inner left thigh, turning the chest more left, looking to the left, maybe looking up to the sky. You're creating more opening between your chest and your left knee. You can actively press your left hand into your inner left thigh if you want to create more opening. That feels good through the hips. Decide whether to look down, look forwards, or look up, depending on what is good for your neck. And then the last offering here is to bend your right knee, open your left arm to the back of the room, and maybe see if your left hand and your right foot can find one another. You can start hugging that right heel towards the right glute, or maybe you take your strap and hook it around the top of your right foot, the rest of the strap in the left hand, and use that as your lever to bring heel towards glute. Wherever you are, whatever has felt enough for you along this path, let's take 3 more breaths. And then we're removing our strap, we're lowering our right foot, we're coming up onto our hands, and gently, slowly shuffle that left foot between the 2 hands. We'll step back into either down dog, tabletop, or child's pose. Exhaling the breath and enjoying fluidity. Lovely. See your body as water. See your breath as fluid water running through you, soothing you, clearing space, purifying. Lovely. Let us meet next in a seat, preparing to come onto our backs. So if you have any props on your mat, just removing them now. Making sure you have a strap, a blanket, your bolster, and your eye pillow nearby. as you may like these items as we come down to the floor. Also, if you like to have a pillow cushion behind the head, if you like the head slightly elevated, you can place that on your mat now behind you. And we'll come all the way down, and firstly we'll grab onto our strap. So check that the back of your pelvis is rooting down. Take your strap under the sole of your right foot and extend your right leg to the sky with your strap wrapped around both of your hands. Your right foot's flexing, your shoulders are soft to the floor, and you're beginning to use the strap to bring the right leg closer towards you, engaging in a hamstring stretch. Again, that right leg doesn't have to be completely straight. There could be softening through the right knee. And your left leg can either be bent with the left foot to the floor, or some of you might slide your left leg down the mat and flex the left foot. See what feels appropriate for your back, for your hips, and do just that. Let's take 3 breaths into the back of this right leg. And now let us put the strap just in the right hand and put the left hand on your left hip. Take the right leg all the way out to the right, as far as it wants to go, nice and wide. Maybe your right elbow rests on the floor. Breathing into your inner leg lines, the adductor muscles, as well as that right hamstring. Again, the left leg can be straight, or you can have a bend to the left leg. Maybe let the left knee hang a little wide so you feel balanced on both sides of your body. Let's take 3 more breaths. Start to bring that right leg back to center. Put the strap in your left hand and put your right thumb on your right hip crease. This is so that the right hip remains rooting down to the mat. It will definitely want to lift because that's easier, but keep the back of the pelvis exactly where it is. Now if your left leg isn't straight, straighten the left leg down the mat and take your right leg across your body on a diagonal line. You might not find that the right leg has to go very far before you feel some engagement in the outer right hip and thigh. Flex the right foot and remain here for 3 breaths. 2 breaths. Last breath. And then release the strap and place both feet to the floor. Return your pelvis to the middle of your mat. Take a big inhale and a smooth exhale. Second side, strap under the sole of the left foot, left leg to the sky, strap in both hands. Keep that right leg where it is, or extend the right leg down the mat. Relax your shoulders. Breathe into the back of the left leg. Staying here for 3 breaths. And of course, if you had longer in your practice, longer with your students, you could stay a lot longer in these shapes. The hamstrings need lots of time, so you can take more time in each option. For now, let's wrap the strap in the left hand, put the right hand on the right hip, extend your left leg out to the left, any amount. putting the left elbow on the floor perhaps for some support. And you're really pushing the sole of the left foot into the strap, and then you're actively using the power of your left arm to press the strap into the foot. So you've got this real connection, this real engagement between the two, supporting you. Again, right leg can be bent, right knee can go wide if you prefer. 3 breaths. Engage your core and bring that left leg back up. Place the right hand around the strap. Put your left thumb into your left hip crease to hold the left hip down. Extend your right leg down the mat. Flex the left foot strongly and cross the left leg over the right on a diagonal line. Holding here, breathing here. There may be some intensity. Use the exhale breath to help you. Three more breaths. Engage your core and bring that left leg back to the sky. Bend the left knee, remove your strap and place both feet to the floor and exhale your breath. At this point, it might feel nice to shuffle your feet as wide as your mat and quite simply sway your knees right to left, lubricating the hips one more time, massaging the glutes, the lower back and the kidneys. If you're pausing on either side, letting the knees hang to one side, perhaps you press your pelvis in the same direction as your knees to maybe feel more of a stretch in the front of the hips. And at this point, just scan through your body as you do this and notice if there's anything else you need to do for the hips before we take Shavasana. That might be a simple hug of the knees to the chest or a happy baby pose. Maybe you'd like a couple of breaths in butterfly pose with the soles of the feet together and the knees wide. Maybe you'd like to take a full body stretch or a twist. Or maybe you're just ready for rest. Maybe Shavasana is calling you. I always like to offer a little pocket of time at the end of the class before Shavasana, just so that you can seal the class in your way. If there's anything else your body's craving, anything we didn't get to today together, do that now so that you can rest and ground into your Shavasana with more ease. Once you're ready for Shavasana, you might slide a bolster under the legs, under the knees. You might rest a blanket over your entire body or just over the pelvis for weight and grounding. And you might place an eye pillow or some piece of clothing over the eyes. And then sliding any of the props out of the way so that your body feels free and floating in space. You might nuzzle the pelvis underneath you a little more, nuzzle the shoulders underneath you a little more. Just get into that really comfortable, grounded position. No holding or tension in the body. This is your time for rest and digest, to soak up the openings from this practice. I'll call you from Shavasana when it's time. If you have more time to dedicate to your Shavasana today, then please take that time. No rush to move. If, however, it's time for you to come out, I invite you to deepen your breath and begin to add some delicate movements to your fingers and toes, to your wrists and ankles. Take a full body stretch as you inhale. And as you exhale, hug your knees to your chest. And rock gently on your back until you're ready to roll onto your side and take a few more breaths there. Root down through your top hand to press you all the way up to a tall seat of Sukhasana to close our practice. Try and remain with your eyes closed and simply notice what it feels like to sit now. The hips a little more spacious and open. Grounding down into the pelvis, rooting down into that chakra, that energy of stability, home. I am. And breath into the lower belly, the space of the sacral chakra, building more fluidity, building more space for creativity. May you notice how these two chakras that we have stimulated and practiced now support you and show up in the rest of your day. Let us close with a sealing breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Thank you so much for your time, your breath, your energy. It's my pleasure to guide you. Namaste.